Hi, I'm Kristen Bell, and if you know my husband Dax, then you also know he loves shopping for a car. Selling a car? Not so much.
We're really doing this, huh?
Thankfully, Carvana makes it easy. Answer a few questions, put in your VIN or license, and done. We sold ours in minutes this morning, and they'll come pick it up and pay us this afternoon.
Bye-bye, truckie.
Of course, we kept the favorite.
Hello, other truckie.
Sell your car with Carvana today. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm Will Bruin, and I was just recognized as a Seattle Sounders legend. Now I get to do voice reads for the Sounder at Heart podcast network.
Here we go. Come on! Hey, O'Shan! Let's go!
A save by Fry! The Seattle Sounders have done it! MLS Cup winners!
Here comes Rui Diaz through the middle to crown it for Seattle! And now they truly can start the celebrations. It's the Sounders MLS Cup.
Niko leaves absolutely no doubt. The Sounders rule the region. Seattle Sounders is campeón. It's gone! It's gone! Finally!
This feels fucking awesome.
This is a tiny dog.
Nice work on your little yacht thing.
And Portland can't say shit.
You know, what was the thought process in terms of who you decided to use and who you didn't?
Ever since Sounder Hart wrote a commentary that we didn't take Oakcombe seriously.
This episode of Nos Arietes is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based wine retailer and proud sponsor of Nos Arietes since 2011. Full Pull was founded in 2009, is based in Seattle, and is owned and operated by longtime Sounders supporters. They offer the best boutique wines of the world to members of their mailing list, with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest. Welcome back to another episode of Nos Arietes on the Sounder at Heart podcast network. It is Thursday, but there's no training tomorrow, at least not locally. So we're doing what we learned this week a little early. I'm Jeremiah Shan. I'm here with Niko Moreno. How you doing, Niko?
Hey, what's going on, Jeremiah? Over here enjoying another nice, settled, cloudy day. I mean, I've become that guy that once it gets too hot, I enjoy a little bit of that cooler weather. So we're back here at, of course, the Seattle Sounders Clubhouse and Performance Center. And, with a lot of talk about, I did want to start this off by getting something out of the way, Jeremiah, if you would allow me to do so, is just wishing Garth Lagerwey our very best. We had just heard just a couple of minutes ago that Atlanta United sent a statement out about Garth Lagerwey being diagnosed with cancer. And to kind of piggyback off some of what Brian Schmetzer said today, regardless of what type of diagnosis of cancer it is, it should always be taken seriously, and I wish him nothing but the best. The statement part of it, and you pointed it out, Jeremiah, it said, I shall be back.
I shall return. Exactly.
That is the most Garth Lagerwey thing since the immortality. Are you ready to rumble, situation he did here at Lumen. But, in all honesty, I wish him all the best. He'll be in my prayers. One of the nicest guys, beyond how brilliant he was when he came to his job and his soccer mind. Just a good overall guy. So wishing him nothing but the best. If there's anyone built mentally and physically just to like beat this, is him. He's the most positive guy in the planet. I know that he's gonna be back. He's gonna come back stronger than ever.
Yeah, and just to give a little bit more on that, the release did say it seems to be a treatable form. You take all cancer seriously, but this does seem like something where there is a good prognosis. So we wish him the best, absolutely. And on a personal note, I just will say, like, Garth is one of the real ones. He is someone who really does believe in sort of like the rising tide, lifting all ships. He did not have to give outlets like us the time of day, and he gave us a lot more than that. He was always game. I remember one of the last yacht con we did, we suggested doing a hot wing challenge, and he was like, yeah, sign me up. He just housed a bunch of wings on camera, and we had a good time. And that's Garth, man. He's just up for whatever. He wants to do stuff that is both fun and uplifting to people. He doesn't care. He as long as he really wants to believe we're all on the same side and we're all kind of pushing in the same direction. And he's had the same kind of relationship with the media over in Atlanta, which has been great to see. So absolutely wishing him all the best. But I am really, I'm optimistic for him. I hope that, I'm sure he's got lots of support, and just wanted to give him a shout out that we're thinking about him, and that we are, if there's anything we can do, even if it's just sending out good vibes, we want to do it.
Same goes for you guys. Send him a comment, put him out there. I don't know if he has any social medias now that I think about it, but either way, just wish him the best in your own social medias. I always think that vibes go a long way. And I'm with you, Jeremiah. I mean, the beauty of what Garth did is that he always made you feel like a somebody.
Yeah.
And, me, I'm in a way lower scale than you when it came to this media thing, when he first came on 2016, and he would just sit there and talk to you and give you the time of day. And that is
he was always, again, not to make this like a Garth Logaway podcast, but, one of the first interviews I did with him was at his office at Starfire. And, they said, okay, you can have an hour. And so we were talking, we were just, shooting the shit. And it's like 45 minutes before we turn on the mic. And so it's like, oh, we gotta kind of running low here. And Alex, the Sounders comms guy, he kind of shows up in the window and he goes, what's going on? And Garth just like shoos him away. And we end up sitting there for like an hour, and, another hour, did the whole, it was just, that's the kind of guy he is. He had time for everybody.
Yeah, that's Garth, man. I absolutely love that.
Has time for everybody. I don't want to talk about it like in the past.
No, has. He will have.
Exactly.
He will continue to have time. We love you, Garth. All right, that's it.
Yeah. All right. So here we are. It's Thursday, like I said. Sounders are getting ready to take off for Kansas City. We'll talk a little bit about Kansas City later in the show, but right now let's talk about the Sounders. They are coming off a 1-1 tie with the Columbus Crew. I think probably more positives than negatives in terms of how they played in that game. But it does sort of look like Brian has settled into his starting group, even though it's, there's going to be changes this week. There were changes last week. They seem to mostly be for understanding. He's not changing guys out for form right now. It looks like Jordan is probably going to move back to the starting spot at the number 9. I think that's an exciting development. It looks like, one of the big things that will be interesting to watch is what he does at center back, though. He did say that Yamar is going to travel, but Alex hasn't just been respectable at center back. I don't know that he made any mistakes at center back. In fact, he made a bunch of plays who I don't know if he really, I don't think he put a foot wrong in these games. I think that's going to be the most interesting thing is what he does this week, is what he does with Alex Roldan. Now, I suppose it helps that Kalani Kosarienzi, or it helps, I don't know if that's the right word, but it changes.
It's a factor.
It's a factor that Kalani is out. So what do you do at right back there? But it's it's got to be tempting to sort of leave him there, and I don't know, maybe put Reed at right back or something like that.
Yeah, what I would say is that if there's a change to Alex being back at right back, it's more than likely because of the suspension to Kalani. But what I will say is that although I do not want to take any credit away from how good Alex Roldan has been, I would say that Kansas City's attack's a bit more straightforward and attacks you as a 9 that's going to probably occupy a lot more of is going to challenge you a lot more inside the box. Is going to challenge you a lot more in his physicality, his willingness to beat you down. He is a guy that is nose down. He's going to play off for you. He's going to pick you with your shoulder, with his hip. I think that Austin had a lot of issues getting services into Vasquez because of how limited they were offensively, especially out in the flanks. And Columbus, they played you differently with Diego Rossi, who isn't necessarily, a target 9 or a 9 is going to beat you right down the middle. And so because of that, looking a little bit into this Sporting Kansas City team and the way that they play with Joe Village up top, it would have been interesting to just see him play there. But to me, it's probably the most coherent thing to do to just put Alex at the right back position and Jonathan Bell next to Jackson Reagan for this one.
Yeah, no, I think that probably makes sense. It's a little bit more of a straightforward approach, not trying to get cute, and then you sort of. It'll be interesting to see how they rotate the lineup in the next couple of games. They have a home game against Colorado Rapids on Wednesday, and then they have a home game against San Jose Earthquakes on the following Saturday. You imagine there's going to have to be some rotation in, especially at center mid, where, we've been sort of tracking this situation a lot, especially coming out of the Club World Cup. Both Obed and Christian are tracking towards career high for minutes. They can't just keep playing them every game. Now, I will say to Brian Schmetzer's credit, he's found ways to get them off the field in games, but that's a lot different than giving them a day off. Like these guys have basically been playing every game since the LAFC loss where they had JP and Danny Leyva in there. JP obviously no longer available. We asked him about what they might do at center mid today. And Brian did sort of allude to the possibility that Snyder Brunel is going to sign. We have, of course, reported that, but it does sound like an announcement is in the works.
Yeah, he also did not dismiss the possibility of Alex nor Kalani Kozariansi, who've both played that position before, whether it was at a college level or at times with the Sounders. And so that's interesting because that could fit to that position, because aside from Danny Leyva, I mean, you really have not a lot of options. Even if you bring Schneider Brunel, who I'm very high on him, but he's still 18 years old.
He's 18 years old.
And you want to you don't want to burn him out immediately.
Leagues Cup might be a more interesting place to get him some.
Yes, that is very true. That is very true. And that's something that the Sounders have done before with the younger players. What I would say is that, to your point, it's not just the amount of minutes, it's the type of minutes.
They are running a lot.
Absolutely. The amount of space that Christian Roldan has covered has been unreal.
Yeah.
The physicality of his play, tackling. I'm talking about like slide tackling, pushing guys off. He showed it in the Club World Cup. And then Obed, on the other hand, pushing forward, being so aggressive inside the box, getting to those prime scoring and prime assist positions. There's minutes, and then there's minutes between minutes, and they've had some tough minutes.
Yeah, for sure. One of the other things we talked to Brian about today, and I actually thought this was maybe, I don't know if we have much we've talking about it, but I felt like he gave the most coherent answer yet as to why he likes Pedro de la Vega on the right as opposed to the left. Because a lot of us have pointed out that a lot of his success in Argentina was on the left. But basically what Brian said, and I don't know, you tell me how much you buy this, but I thought it was a pretty plausible explanation. But what he said was, the way we play, the guy on the right is going to end up with the ball a lot more. That's just the field tilts to the right for the Sounders. And that's the nature of, they usually have a more attack-minded fullback on the right as opposed to the left. And they just sort of gravitate to that side of the field. And so if they want Pedro on the ball, which is what seemingly they want, it's better for him to be on the right as opposed to on the left, where you sort of have to wait for your opportunities a little bit more. And that's also, I think, what they like about both Paul and Kent, where they don't need the ball 40, 50 times a game. They can sort of bide their time and wait out there.
No, I do believe it. I think that it makes a lot of sense. We all know that Pedro is a type of winger that wants the ball at his feet at all times. He's always asking for it. He gravitates towards the ball. At times, the havoc that he does causes with him on the ball. We've said multiple times that probably his biggest attribute to this team is that he's the best one-on-one attacker. He's going to beat you off the dribble the most, in my opinion. And so you probably want that. What I would say is that after talking to, Preki, and I'm sure that
I want to give a little shout out. You had a nice interview with Preki that's up on our YouTube channel right now. We've alluded to it before, but we do have this kind of growing partnership with Pulso Sports. And so this was sort of the first semi-exclusive piece that we've done. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to say. And I'm glad that, you let our audience know where they could find that, because I think that Preki and Brian see a lot of things, if not exactly the same, very similarly.
Very similar, for sure.
And a lot of what he was pointed out was just that he wants Pedro to be more patient on that side. And that makes a lot of sense when the guy getting all the minutes on that side right now is Ferreira, who, if anything, is patient. Right?
Yes.
Maybe too patient
Maybe
at times.
too patient at times, but yes, he's very, very willing to be patient.
His link-up play, his ability to connect is what he kind of mentioned a lot. And Pedro maybe has a hard time with that because he wants to get to that final line so consistently. But at the same time, I kind of, and I've said this consistently, whenever your system at time oversees, regardless of the opposition, to play in the exact same type of way, it can become predictable. And so for me, like going and not talking too much about Sporting Kansas City, I feel like Pedro would be very good for this game, particularly. So if he doesn't start, to me, it's a little bit about, yes, we're going to stick to our system, but maybe it's beyond the tactics and it's more about the effort and the discipline, right? That maybe Ferreira gives you on that side, opposed to what Pedro does. And that's, again, I've stated my concern before that it's really difficult to continue to develop Pedro if he has these obstacles to get in and get confident. We talked about confidence with Preki as well. So to me, although I do believe that Brian is being very truthful and transparent about why he's doing it, that doesn't necessarily mean that I share the overall objective.
Yeah. I think that's fair. And I will say, for folks that want to see more of Pedro, I thought Brian gave a pretty strong hint that one way or another, we're going to see more Pedro minutes in this next 3 games. He spoke very highly of his effort and the work he's putting in training. And he talked about how they feel like this is going to be an opportunity for him to get on the field a little bit more and get an extended run out. Because, one of the things that was really frustrating about the Crew game was it was pretty, I don't know, I wouldn't say wide open, but it was a really interesting match for the first 75 minutes or so. And then we talked about this on No Sarietas earlier this week with Aaron, but the Crew basically shut the game down the last 15 minutes up until the red card. They just didn't seem, they seemed like they just decided, like, look, a point is fine for us. And that's, hey, I'm never going to fault a team for deciding that they don't want to run up and down the field. If they want to settle for a point, that's a team's prerogative, and it's the other team's responsibility to change that, right? But that was what was frustrating, is over the last 15 minutes, I didn't think we learned anything about Pedro, about Kent, about Morris. Specifically, those 3 players essentially didn't get the ball, weren't able to get on the ball at all, because the game just was not playing open enough.
And that's very true. And that's why at times, and that was part of my question today, although I don't know if you necessarily answered it, was, how do you balance results and what you're getting out of Paul Rothwell? By the way, I loved your tactical video. I think that is spot on because look, we could talk about effort and we could talk about just endeavor and all of these things that we want and we see out of Paul, but he's also been very effective. I mean, the runs he makes,
and I think I want to be clear about something. Being able to maximize on your talent is a talent in and of itself.
Yes.
And that is sort of the thing that he's been doing better than anybody else, is that he's making the most of the opportunities, whereas a lot of these other players, for whatever reason, just have not been able to do that. And part of that is his willingness to make that second run, to make an unrewarded run, to just kind of be a pest, to be annoying. Those are all talents. They're just not necessarily what we think of always as the most talented players.
Yeah, but you hit and concluded it perfectly by saying he's likely the guy with the lowest ceiling, but most of the times he has the highest floor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at this game in particular, the goal is a great goal because he's making those runs, he's getting to those spaces. Let's not forget Kalani and that cut inside, the way he cut Nagby from getting into positions to defend that ball as he tracks him down. And the pass was fantastic. But then in the second opportunity he had, which is a Albarosnak pass, could he have taken that first touch maybe more direct and not so diagonal? Yes. Should he have gone near post? Absolutely. Could he have done a little feint and maybe taking himself away from the angle, but you take care of the goalkeeper that's gonna want to dive at that first attempt of a shot or fake of a shot? Sure, there's a whole bunch of things that we can do, and that composure in front of goal he'll grow into and he'll continue to develop. But then it all goes back to two things can be true. One, Brian Schmetzer is maximizing the talent, and Paul Rothberg is maximizing his time and his effectiveness with his talent. But at the same time, it is a tough road for Pedro to get in there. Now, is the competition more with Ferreira? Perhaps that's more of the competition. Is it Ferreira and Pedro on the right side, and is Ryan Kent and Paul on the left side?
And and on that same token, we talked to Jordan yesterday. And Jordan was genuinely really excited about being able to play with Jesus. And I can see why the Sounders sort of want to get a look at that, frankly. Jordan doesn't get animated about much, but he was effusive in his praise of Jesus's vision and his desire to sort of be able to play off one another. And they did have a good thing going in preseason. I think it's easy to forget that they were looking like a good partnership in preseason, and they've only been able to start 2 games together is kind of a bummer. And you can understand why Jordan is like, no, let's see what this has, because there's real potential there. The potential of having both Jesus and Rusnak feeding balls to Jordan is pretty exciting.
No, absolutely. And, the system works for it. He talked about, when I'm sitting on the bench and I'm seeing Jesus put these balls in, it's like, man, I just want to be out there, right? Because he feels like he can get to those balls where perhaps Danny Musovski, although, he has been good in front of goal, there are times where he just doesn't get there, right?
So he's just a different kind of player, fundamentally a different kind of player.
100%. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. But I am excited, like you said, and the fact that Brian said, we're going to see more Pedro. It is something that I want to see just so we can get a better gauge. I feel like we don't have enough database for whatever reason. It's either been injuries or it's been the rehab time or setbacks or we're rotating. We just, I feel like we haven't seen enough consistent minutes for Pedro to necessarily, judge him adequately. I don't know how you share that.
I would totally agree. I think that's been the biggest frustration is that even though Pedro has been relatively healthy this year, that we haven't been able to get a run of games where he's been with, and when he's got his consistent run of games is not necessarily with the A lineup.
That's also fair.
And so, he was good against, I thought he was good against Dallas on that road game against Dallas. And he's had moments where he's had, he had
the Nashville game was really good. Where
the Nashville game was that's another good. So it's like, he's had moments. I think the idea that he hasn't really flashed his potential is not fair to him.
No.
And it's the real problem is that he just hasn't had a consistent run, and it'll be, I suppose these are good problems. If you're going to have problems, having too many interesting players is a relatively good problem to have, but it does seem like a situation where I really do hope that we get to see a little bit more of him, and we'll see. But why don't we take a break and then we're going to dig in a little bit more onto Sporting Kansas City. You're listening to No Sarietes.
Thank you for listening to the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network, which now includes Nos Arietes, Lobbing Scorchers, and the Cooler Guild. We've been independent since August of 2023, but need your support to make sure it continues. Although this podcast is free, it's only made possible by your continued support. Memberships start as low as $25 a year, which not only helps make podcasts like this one happen, but also gets you access to everything we produce. If you're able to support us at higher levels, starting at $75 a year, you gain access to a host of other perks, most notably entry into our members-only Discord, where the smartest, funniest, and most engaged commenters share their thoughts and ideas. To find out more, just visit sounderatheart.com and click the subscribe button in the top right corner. Thanks for listening.
Nos Arietes, admittedly, is not exactly known for our spicy takes, but that doesn't mean we want our food to be mild. Spice up your life with Hacks and Ferments. Handcrafted in Georgetown and made with the best local ingredients from across the Pacific Northwest, they specialize in unique small batch fermented hot sauces and vinegars. Hacks and Ferments brings bold flavors and natural fermentation together for something truly special. Whether you're a heat seeker or just looking to elevate your cooking, you'll find something you love at hacksandferments.com. That's HAXANFERMENTS.com. And right now, if you use the code SOUNDERATHEART, that's all one word, at checkout, you will get a free hot sauce with your order. Again, go to hacksandferments.com, use the code SOUNDERATHEART at checkout for a free hot sauce with your order. Hacks and Ferments is a proud sponsor of the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network. Welcome back to Nos Arietes. So, Sporting Kansas City, that's the opponent on Saturday. Sounders are going on the road. They are probably already in transit to Kansas City as we speak. They will train in Kansas City tomorrow and then play on Saturday. What do you make of Kansas City? This is a team who all the advanced, it was funny actually. Brian mentioned this or alluded to this, is that the advanced analytics of Sporting Kansas City are garbage. Like, this is a team who right now they're like negative 20 expected goals. They are overperforming. They're currently overperforming their expected goals by like 15 or something like that. It's some outrageous thing like that. But they've also shown a knack for getting results in games where they really have no business at all getting a result. Earlier this year, they became like the first team in sort of measured soccer history to win a game that they had zero shots, not shots on goal. They took zero shots and they managed to win a game on an own goal against the Galaxy, which was sort of a commentary on how bad the Galaxy have been. And then just this week, they beat the Rapids in a game where they gave up 2 penalties and they were absolutely battered in terms of chances. And John Poolskamp, their goalkeeper, sort of stood on his head. And so this is a team that knows how to get results, even though they're not good, but they're like right on the edge of the playoffs. I don't quite know what to make of them.
Yeah, they are an interesting team because you could see flashes of individual talent when it comes to the attacking end. Love Manu Garcia. I think he's got great vision. I think that he works for the system. He is very good on set pieces, has a great mid-range shot. He leads them in assists.
Yeah.
Joveljic is one of my favorite forwards to watch because he's so incisive. He's so consistent. He's so pushy, aggressive. He's battles every ball. He could poach them. He can generate them. He could do so many things inside and outside of the box that I just love the way he handles his game. He's going to give you 110% for the entirety of the time he's on the field. And I even have been very impressed by a guy like Eric Tommy, that he, at that winger position, if you let him cut inside, he's going to cook you, and he's going to try it a couple of times. So I see the flashes. Now, they have a hard time with the ball and generating their own chances when they don't necessarily kind of get fed to them. Like that first goal against Colorado is a giveaway of a pressure moment that they do create, of course, but it's not on the possession of the ball. And of course, a guy like Jovic is going to put it away, but they just have a hard time kind of getting forward. Defensively, I thought that they were exposing the flanks. Calvin Harris, I thought, was giving them hell. And what is the name of the other guy? Petrush. The other guy, man. Anyways, but both.
Oh yeah. I would not. I'm not exact. Yeah, they've got some interesting names on their team.
Yeah. Pedro. Pedro is the guy that on the other side was making them, defend a lot. And whenever it came to that emergency defense, they had real difficulties.
Colorado did. Yeah,
Colorado. So they definitely were pushing the flanks, and Kansas City had difficulties with it, but Colorado wasn't just putting the ball on the back of the net. What I would say that Seattle should be looking at is that Navarro did a lot of work that was unnecessary, and they made it very easy to defend when it was just him fitting in balls on top of the box or through balls. They did a lot better when they were playing out wide. So I think that's something that Seattle has been very good at lately. Very good at getting those back passes from the outside positions. So I think that could benefit Seattle. But they are an interesting team because they have gotten a bit of a form, but it seems like it's more effort and willingness to be in the games and get the ball elsewhere than necessarily talent or consistent ability to get the ball forward.
And defensively, they have struggled. Like, this is a team who has given up quite a few goals. They've had their struggles, and so they are second. They've given up the second most goals in the Western Conference, 38 goals. And that's at home as well. Like, they've been the worst home defensive team in the Western Conference. They've given up 20 goals at home. They're allowing 2 goals per match at home. And their defense just does not have a lot of obvious strengths.
They don't. I think that the center backs have a really hard time pressuring the player that's taking space. I felt like marking issues in the box were there all day long. They just could not buy a goal. I mean, you talked about the PK. Jordy Mihailovic, first of all, he misses that PK.
Yes.
And then he has another freebie on top of the box that he cannot put away. And he's just like looking at the ceiling, at the sky, wondering what he has to do to buy a goal. There was one on the post that Navarro had. I mean, there was consistent chances. They just couldn't put it away. So if Seattle can really pepper them, if they could really slice them and dice them offensively, I think that it could be a good performance for Seattle. But I think it all starts with in what shape and form Jordan Morris is in. I think that he could really feed off of a game like this one to just kind of get him going for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and John Pulskamp probably is their saving grace right now. At least he's been, when they've been good, it's been a lot of his play. Now, this is a relatively young goalkeeper that they've been vetting in for the last couple seasons. This is a game that the Sounders really should look at as, look, if you're going to win, if you're going to charge up the table, you got to win some road games. And this is a road game the Sounders need to feel like they can win.
Yeah. And you got a great point when it comes to Pulskamp, not just his ability to just be a shot stopper and put his body on the line. He's very good at closing in when it comes to 1v1 situations. But on the ball, he is very good at making sure that there's a quick service in, whether it's with his hands or with his foot. They're not afraid of being direct, right? Fight for that second ball. And that's how they got Colorado into some issues. It was a direct ball from the goalkeeper all the way across the other side, making him defend, making him repress. So that's something that I feel like his timing is very good and controlling and helping the tempo of the game.
Yeah, and I guess if there's one other X factor in this game, it's always the weather in Kansas City. They is about as different as you're going to get from Seattle in the summer. And it's almost always hot and muggy. And that's just something that we've seen that bite the Sounders before. I mean, right now, as I'm looking at the at the forecast. We're looking at thunderstorms potentially. We're looking at rain. We're looking at temperatures in the low 80s, so maybe not too bad, but humidity in the 70s. This is not a Seattle environment.
No, it's not a Seattle environment. It doesn't fit well for a Sounders team that, if anything, we just talked about the amount of minutes and miles that they've had to play. I just talked to Jesus off the mics, and he said this to me. I forgot how far we were from everything. Seattle was from everything. In Dallas, you're kind of in the middle, right?
Right. What's funny is that the Sounders have not had to travel almost at all. Like, they went to their last road game was at Vancouver. So other than that, the Sounders have been at home. Basically, they've been in the Pacific Northwest for like over a month, maybe almost 2 months, I suppose. So this is, this is a real road trip.
No, it's a big road trip. You should never take a team like Sporting Kansas City lightly, specifically at home. Look, I know Charlotte is probably not as good as they've been in the past, but I was looking back at that game against Charlotte, and although both goals for Sporting Kansas City came in late, they had plenty of opportunities, man, and maybe a little bit on the side of, once again, a team that kind of plays way beyond their expected goal percentages. You just cannot take them lightly at home.
Yeah, for what it's worth, the last time the Sounders left the West Coast, so was May 10th, so almost exactly 2 months ago. They were at LAFC, they were at Portland, and then they are at Vancouver, and everything else has been at home in the meantime. So this is going to be, there'll be a test. I am optimistic. I feel like this is a game, like I said, that the Sounders should be able to get 3 points from. They should be looking at it as a potential 3-point.
I would agree.
This is a potentially pivotal week for them because there are 3 really winnable games coming right in a row. And if they can get 9 points from these, they got to feel like they're right back in the Western Conference race, if not the Supporters Shield race. And all of a sudden, we start talking about other things. Otherwise, they are not so far ahead that they can avoid to drop points either. So it's as always in the Western Conference and MLS, almost every week is important. But this one, feels like a big one.
Yeah, and I think that you're probably going to rotate against Colorado. They're on a free fall.
Yeah,
they've won one of their last 5 games. They got outperformed in every way against LAFC, but I will say that there was a really soft and controversial red card in the 5th minute against Colorado that likely changed that game. But still, it seems like Armas is having a hard time just getting any sort of results. And that team, despite having some pretty big names, I would say, they have not performed to that name, right? Vines, Cannon, Cole Bassett, all these guys just seem to be shells of the player they were before. So
not
Seattle,
the players that went to Europe.
Exactly. 100%. That's a great way to put it. And so when you look at that midweek game, you're like, oh man, might be able to rotate, get Pedro in, maybe get Danny Leva and whoever it is that you choose next to him. So yeah, I feel like things are really playing out for Seattle, but it's important to go out here and get these 3 points.
Exactly.
Because what I will say about the Western Conference right now is that there are some teams that are starting to start hitting the road with some traction. Houston being one of those teams where you're like, man, they're going to be
looking pretty serious.
100%. So you got to be mindful. Now, there's other teams like Austin that, I feel like after the Brandon Vasquez and then season injury, they're going to struggle in things. But Seattle wants to get their points now rather than later down the road.
Absolutely. Well, that's probably a good note to end on. Once again, I'm going to give a plug to the video content that we're putting up on the Sounder at Heart YouTube page. You did a great interview with Preki. We just did a little tactical short on Paul Rothrock and why he continues to start and why he deserves to be starting right now because he's just making the most of his time. Of course, you can also follow us on YouTube for all our audio content. I would urge you, if you're listening to us primarily through audio, probably a better experience through various audio readers, but whatever, you do you. But all that said, thank you to our sponsor, Full Pool Wines. Thank you to Niko. follow Pulso Sports, of course. Niko is on Blue Sky, El Rolo, NW. You can also watch him on Soccer Down Here, as well as Lobbing Scorchers. Anything else to plug, Niko?
No, I think that's it. Just those two and yours, of course. Those I call my podcast that I do consistently, and including Soccer Down Here, which has been really, really fun. We focused a lot of our efforts this morning to talking about Steph and his recuperation and things. So I really love that show. So go ahead and check those guys out at Soccer Down Here.
Awesome. Well, with all that said, this is No Sadietes, part of the Sounder Art Podcast Network. I am Jeremiah Shan, and we'll catch you next time.
I expect a LAFC who's motivated to prove themselves at home, to prove to their fans that they're capable of winning in this league. And it's up to us to really brew in the party.
I feel a lot better than Bob.